Well, good morning, everyone. It's 11 a.m. and we will wait a minute or two to let the last second folks join us. Thank you for joining us. We'll come back to you in about a minute or so. Look like we've leveled off, Laura.
Yes,
And have everyone in?
I think we're good to go, Tim.
All right, great. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome on this nice, warm spring day. It's just incredible to feel the warmth, and that brings smiles to everybody's faces. And it also brings joy that we see activities going on around us. So on behalf of the Minnesota State High School League, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this media forum in preparation for the spring tournament events. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tim Layton, and I'm with the league staff, and I will serve as your host for this forum with the assistance of my teammates, Laura Makatoon and Ellen Rakuski along the way. Here is a look at the media forum and the list of objectives that will help guide this informational meeting and information sharing today. Now, for some of you veteran reporters, this information might not be anything new to you, so consider this as a refresher. But for some of you younger media folks just starting out, this is a good informational piece as to how we do this. So sometimes we are asked a question, why is the league hosting this kind of information forum? Well, communicating the processes and the steps that you will walk during your state coverage information will be covered here. Guidance information is going to be critical. That information beforehand allows you to plan accordingly. Imagine if you're DMAC coming from Alexandria and coming to the Twin Cities to cover a game. He needs to know with all assurance and a lot of self-confidence that everything is taken care of for him when he arrives on site. So this forum allows you to check off all the boxes and to be able to do this. So this guidance and this information, this is a walk through each of the state tournament events, and it sets a standard moving forward across all of our programming. If you have a question along the way, please use the chat feature. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. And please send your chat questions to either Laura or Ellen. They both will be monitoring that feature during the presentation. Let's take a look at our agenda next. The look at the agenda today is this. The league is going to provide overviews in a handful of different media areas, and then do, again, like I shared earlier, a slow walk through each of the state tournament events. So if you're ready, grab those reporter notebooks and we will move onward. Here's a brief look at the different stages of media coverage during the high school season. This quick review is important as it helps media to understand the regular season coverage as it transitions into the postseason. Now, during the regular season, you know the coverage decisions are made at the local level, but those local administrators, they use league policies and guidelines as their tools in being able to go into their decision making when to permit media on site. Then you move on to the section level and the league policies kick in there. And that's when they guide the region secretaries and league staff here in the approval of coverage requests. Now at the state tournament level, that coverage request, the media policy governance, that's all handled by the league and its staff. Moving on, we're going to look at some website resources. And for that, I'm going to turn this over to Laura. And now time to introduce Laura. Many of you know her as the league's director of technology. Many of you also already know her through your service to the league's media advisory committee or listening in on other league presentations. Laura, welcome.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I just want to walk through a few slides to help you best find some resources to help in your coverage of the state tournament. really 3 areas that I would anticipate that you are looking for on the website to guide your work. The first is the media page, and you can find that underneath the Who Are You tab, and then choose media. When you choose that media page, you'll find a number of things there that are aimed at you around credentialing, approved credential lists. We're going to talk a little while later about I Want a Maker for golf. Those resources for your people are on that media page. So please make sure you know where that is. If there are other resources that we could add there that would assist you, please reach out and let us know what those are. Really working to provide you a landing spot of resources for media folks. The second place is using the sports and activities button up at the top. Behind that button, you'll find a page for each sport and activity. That is really the landing page for information about that sport or that activity. It's where you'll start to find buttons across the top that give you tournament information. It's where you'll find the beginning and ending dates of those tournaments. At the bottom of that page, you also start to find news stories that have been written by league staff around that sport or that activity. So as you're preparing to attend a specific tournament, that's a great place to start to get information to help you prepare. And the third one is underneath schools. You'll be able to find a list of all of our member schools. And behind each of those school pages, also a team page. Our schools have the ability to enter rosters, schedules, and results. And we've been working with them throughout this year to get those up and running. If you have schools within your area that are at the stage where those are available, please make sure you thank that activities director and tell them how valuable those tools are to you. If you have an activities director in your area who has not yet started to put rosters, schedules, and results, please, as politely as you can, encourage them and tell them how important that is to you and really how much time it could save them in assisting media folks with that information. And if they need some training, please send them our way. We've been working with them throughout the year as it works for them to get in and running. So it's really taking all of us to get schools there, but those schools that are there, it's become a great asset for everyone. So again, you'll find those 4 buttons across the top of the website. Please use those as you start to prepare for tournaments. During tournaments, league staff writes recap articles and preview articles. Those really depend on the nature of the contest, how frequently those get posted. You can find those at the bottom of each activity page, or you can find from the news page up at the top the compiled list of all of those. That news page is a great place to check throughout the year, as that's really where we post things that are happening both at tournaments as well as within the league. If you're looking, for example, for recaps of board meetings, etc., those are posted to that news page. So both tournament time and throughout the year, that's a great place to check. The final page that I'll share with you today, and this is a bit of a busy one, and I think when we share this slide presentation out, this is one you might want to do. We are moving toward using an integrated bracket system that's part of the new website build for section tournaments as well as state tournaments this spring. You saw these during winter tournaments for basketball, hockey, and team wrestling. And this is where we're moving for all tournaments going forward. The reds on this just give you some helps on using the new brackets. And again, you'll find these consistent across everything right now. The first piece is you'll see up in the right-hand corner, there's a drop down that will provide for you all related tournaments. Related tournaments are anything for the same sport and the same year. So currently, if you go to the baseball page, you can find there should be, if my math is right, 36 brackets linked together there. 8 Class A, 8 Class 2A, 8 3A, and 8 4A, as well as 4 state tournament brackets. So I'm really happy with this and think it's going to provide a great service to have access to all brackets in one place. There's also an option to print brackets and some helps on printing brackets. Printing is often very specific to your computer and your print setup. So there are some hints there that will help you get the most out of printing. Up at the very top of the tournament bracket, there's an information text box that is added by the person who is doing that bracket. We expect that, for example, on sections, often that'll have a link to tickets. It might have a link to a rainout policy, other types of things that are specific to that bracket itself. Also, with each game, this little blue eye information icon is really a great one to start to find. And as we start to move into these brackets, I think this is going to be well used. This blue eye information icon opens up a pop-up just about this game. So during state tournaments, that's where we will link stats packets. It's also where we'll link any recap articles from that game. In section tournaments, they may link tickets and or streaming if it's available through that. But again, it's going to be one of those gems that people need to start to learn to find, that eye will provide information just about this specific game. Each school name is a link that will take you back to that team page. So those schools that have added rosters and schedules. So for example, if I clicked, I think this says Nevis High School down here in really small print. If I click on this Nevis High School link, this is a basketball bracket. It's going to take me to Nevis High School's basketball page. So really, as we think about finding those rosters and schedules, they should be at the tip of your fingers here. These blue bars will scroll across depending on where you're viewing brackets. If you're viewing it on a phone compared to a tablet, compared to a 12-inch screen, compared to a large monitor. If you ever see these blue scroll bars, that's your spot to scroll across to get to the rest of the bracket. And you may, again, depending on how big of a screen you're viewing these on, you may or may not even see these because you may just be seeing the whole bracket. And then just a note, as you look at each game within the bracket, there's a lot of information tucked into each one of these. You're seeing the seed numbers. You're seeing the home team icon, if that's appropriate. You're seeing the names of the teams, obviously, once those are there. Location, date, and time are listed. And then as the game ends, scores will also be added, and winners turn blue when that is marked also. So again, a lot of game information that gets tucked in here. Our sections got information on brackets last week, make that 2 weeks ago, and they are at work right now getting rights to the right people to start adding information, and they will start to add information in as it becomes available. They may, for example, know locations now and where their seeds are going to play. After they've done their seeding, then they'll be able to add that information. And then after each game, they'll be able to add that bracket information. So know that becoming familiar with this is helpful, because this is where we will be going forward. That again, we know that this is version 1.0. There are already a couple things on our list of these things need to get better on this. So please provide us again with some feedback as you're in these and what works well for you and where you're still finding some challenges. Again, we'll share the slideshow out and it'll be posted on that media page. So if this graphic is something that you want to have to refer to as you become familiar with these, please pull that for your work. I'm going to turn it to Ellen to talk through some information that you can find at the top of each of those activity pages.
Good morning, everyone. Those of you who have been with us before or use our website a lot, you know that each activity has its own page. And as Laura said, we try to put a lot of information right at the tip of your fingers. So say you went to the boys track page, we would have a schedule up for you, detailing when each race is going to be run. We have links for apparel, if you would go to boys baseball, you would find a link to a results page where we would post all of those box scores. I'll see linked on our brackets, but we just try to put a lot of information right there where you can see it. It's a great resource to also, if you get questions from your public, just refer them to each activity page. Spectator guides are great because we include ticket information. We include links to streaming. Anything that your public could want, you can probably find on this page. And we also have links to competitive sections. So if you want to go in and just see how your local teams are advancing, you can certainly go there for that information as well. We do now have archive buttons up, I believe, for baseball and softball. A lot of information at your fingertips. And with that, I believe I am now going to pass it back to Tim.
Yes, thank you so much, Laura and Ellen, for sharing that valuable information. We're now going to transition and talk a little bit about Minnesota State High School League credentials and just some background there. The league's media policy manual establishes qualifying criteria for a media credential. Media outlets and/or organizations are granted credentials. They must be creating original content, which only can be generated by the access created of the granting of a credential. Independent media members without approved affiliations, they will not be credentialed. And just a side note here, the league does go through an exhaustive process of vetting each and every media credential request. Social-based media services, scouting or recruiting services, college coaches, private club organizations, or websites that are promotional activities also do not qualify at this time for a news media credentials. Credentials are not granted to photo-only websites or to individuals posting scores or the commentary. Media of a personal, recruiting, or rankings nature, or whose demographic audiences are fan-based or focus on primarily one school or one individual, they also do not qualify as a news gathering organization. So this is really important. It's background for you to know just what goes in to that process. A reminder for the member schools, a designated team photographer program that has been discontinued. Moving on, as always, send me an email with any questions or concerns on any of the qualifying criteria, and we will connect on that. You're going to find your media credentials tools at www.mshsl.org on the media page. Credential window are coming up later in the presentation for all of them. Moving on to slide 10, we talk about the radio partners. The Minnesota State High School League has a partnership with the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this partnership covers both the radio and the television markets. A reminder to radio partners that it is important for you to contact site administration to ensure that seating accommodations can be arranged for your coverage. As part of the radio partnership agreement, stations are permitted to implement live audio-only streaming. Now we move on to another member of the High School League's partnership, and that's the Minnesota Community Media Systems. They are also a broadcast partner with the league and the school districts that they represent. If you are a Minnesota Community Media System member and want to cover a section tournament event, please make sure that your designation letter is on file with the league office. Minnesota Community Media Systems that are partnered with the league, they have the ability to stream live audio only on their systems and live video to their local access channel. If you're not registered with the league, a rights fee may apply. Moving on, we're going to touch on streaming. Streaming is, whether it's live or delayed, has become a major part of our media coverage and for you as media organizations. If you intend to stream, make sure that all the qualifying criteria are met. that can be taken care of by a look in our media policy manual, or it can be taken care of with a visit with me, either via email or by phone. It's always a pleasure to chat with each and every one of you to be able to talk through that. At the section level, your request must be sent concurrently to the league office, which is me and that region secretary. Approval is required by both entities. Plan ahead, please. Plan ahead so that your coverage, so that all of these approval processes and they're taken care of in plenty of time for your coverage. On the topic of streaming, we're going to switch gears now to learn a little bit about School Space Media. School Space Media, you can find their stream at prepspotlight.tv. They are the preferred streaming partner of the Minnesota State High School League. Here's their lineup of coverage for the spring state tournament events. And they will be at every state tournament event at different levels. Some will be robust, and others, for example, the Clay Target. It's difficult to stream that event, so they will be there covering the awards ceremonies for that. Streaming is available for purchase through prepspotlight.tv, and it may provide an alternative to media organizations to travel expenses and to time for the media members, especially during this heavy, there's about a 2-week stretch coming up in June that's going to be very challenging for our media organizations for their coverage plans. Now we move on to talk about the league photographers. During state tournament events, you will see photographers wearing either a blue vest or a khaki colored vest. These are worn by league contracted photographers. They are present on championship days of the league state tournaments and the state meets. These photographers are permitted enhanced access because they are more than just photographers. The league contracts them to be photojournalists, to share the stories of the member schools and their journeys to the state tournament events. The photos from the league contracted photographers are posted to the website that is listed here, smugmug.com. You can view those galleries. They have been a terrific resource for media members as well. If you're unable to attend an event or missed a shot during that game that you believe will be critical to your front page coverage, the SmugMug is a great resource to look out for. Well, we've reached that time where everybody is anxious to learn about, here's where we begin, our in-depth look at each of the high school league state activity events. This is the part that the media forum that sparks the most interest. So again, I sharpen those pencils and here we go. We're now going to begin the slow walk in each of these spring state tournament events and share as much information as we can as possible. And we're going to begin with the adapted softball. This is the first weekend of June and Chanhassen High School. State qualifying games are now underway in adapted softball, and you see here on the next slide is that credential window. As is true for all of the state tournament events, it is imperative that media organizations meet these credential deadlines. Just on a side note, many media organizations are having great challenges in meeting these credential deadlines. The league is working with the Minnesota Broadcaster Association, as well as the Minnesota Newspaper Association, the leadership from each of those groups, to try to figure out ways how we can get these media members to meet those deadlines. The Media Advisory Committee met last week to discuss the challenges that we are facing, and they had some ideas to share as well. I will be your contact on site for the adapted softball. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you and working with you on your coverage needs. Next, we move on to boys tennis. The Reed Sweat Family Tennis Center in South Minneapolis, maybe many of you have been there before. It's located 5.4 miles away, or that equates to a 10-minute drive from the Baseline Tennis Center at the University of Minnesota. If you are covering member schools in both of those classes, that close proximity of the venues makes your coverage not only enjoyable, but also very manageable. Now, there are 2 tournaments within boys tennis. The team tournament is held over the first 2 days of the event, and the individual competition takes place over the final 2. Moving on to additional information about boys tennis. Please note again that the credentials window on this site, while it appears like a generous window, please register promptly for that. On site, please check in with the tournament staff if you are unsure of the photo zones or the reporting locations. You can follow along with these tournaments at www.mshsl.org, and results will be posted there via tennisreporting.com. Next, we move on to softball. Join us now as we journey down Highway 169. We're going to hang a right on Highway 14 and go west to Caswell Park in North Mankato. 32 teams in 4 enrollment classes will play over 2 days for coveted state championships. We really thank our hosts at Caswell Park for a great facility with 6 fields. I was there yesterday and had an opportunity to visit the site and take a look at the media pieces and the streaming pieces, and they are just so excited to be a partner with the Minnesota State High School League. 4 championship games are going to be played on Friday, June the 10th. Now, as you are going to find out, folks, in your planning, Friday, June the 10th is going to be a challenging day for coverage with boys tennis, softball, and track and field all taking place. Here's your credentials window for softball. On site, the entry point is going to be at the north gate, and we will get to that in a second. I've got a layout of Caswell Park where I can show you some of these spots. The media parking is going to be across the street at the elementary school or in the field adjacent to the long, narrow parking lot. I'm going to show you that on 2 slides from this one. I will be your league representative on site for softball if you have any questions or concerns. Moving on, here are some more key pieces to know about your softball coverage. Media are permitted to cover from the second levels from the complex there. And there are also covered areas, as many of you know, with tables and electrical hookup. And there's plenty of room to roam on that if member schools are playing, that you are covering, are playing on multiple fields. Scaffolding along the baselines will not be available at Caswell Park for photographers. In-person interviews are permitted, but let's be sure to remember to practice respectful distancing and following along with the progress of games via live stats, which will be used in the championship round games. Let's move on to the pictures that I promised of Caswell Park. As promised, here are a couple of shots. The blue star on the top picture, that indicates your entry point into Caswell Park's facility. Your name will be on a master list, and please be prepared to show your photo ID to receive your credential. And I know this is going to come as good news to many of you. For this tournament, with hopefully nice, beautiful weather, your credential will just be a wristband and not an armband. I can hear the cheering coming through the Zoom link right now. So that's good news. If the ground is dry, if you go the upper left-hand corner of this picture, if the ground is dry, Caswell Park does permit parking in this field. If it's a little too soggy, then we have to go across the street to an elementary school. This bottom photo is a view from the second level. This is their veranda level, and it offers many vantage points to be able to not only cover, but also shoot the games as they are being played. We're going to leave softball now and go to track and field. Track and field is next, and it's a 3-day event at St. Michael Albertville High School. We're very grateful to St. Michael Albertville for hosting for the 2nd consecutive year. And don't forget, this is the first year of a 3-class system for track and field. Here's a look at the schedule for the first 3 full days of action. There are plenty of opportunity for great coverage within this jam-packed schedule over the course of these 3 days. A reminder that the league contracted photographer will be on site for the finals, so that means they will be present for both Friday and Saturday. Moving on, for more information about track and field, here's your coverage information for there. Laura, you worked the event last year. Do you have any other information to share as it regards access at the track and field?
There is the same place that the tickets check in is the same place that media will check in at the main entrance for that. I think Tim is going to talk about that. We will be finding a work area. Not quite sure where that will be yet.
Got it. And that's on the next slide of information. Here are some guidelines for you to the workspace, as Laura mentioned. It's in the works. A workspace is in the works. It could end up being a classroom setting inside the school or another designated area. We will create that workspace. That was a concern brought forward by the Media Advisory Committee last week, and we are following through with site management to be able to make sure that attending media do have a workspace to work from. The press box is unavailable at this time because meet personnel will be using that space. Photographers, on the next slide, I'm going to show you some shooting positions that you will be able to use. Here's an aerial view of St. Michael Albertville's track and field venue. The highlighted blue areas indicate photo access that are permissible at this time. As note, the bleachers on the north side of the stadium, they are now going to have ticketed patrons. Last year, when we had protocols and guidance in place, we did permit the media to shoot from those stands, shoot back over into the discus area or into the running events. That will no longer be an option because there will be ticketed fans there. As you might recall, the blue arrows there that indicate other zones, they're going to look familiar to you. The arrows beyond the fence at the jumping pits, those are shooting locations there, and then at the bottom of the frame. And then the blue star indicates another spot to be able to shoot near the shot put area. And then probably the most popular one is the smaller blue arrow, and that's well beyond the finish line of the running events. That is an acceptable area for photographers to continue shooting. That will again be your photo zone for running events. That's it for track and field. And now we move to the links.
Tim, before you move on, can you circle back? I have a question on softball, and it's just, is there a reason that scaffolding won't be allowed, and where will they be allowed to shoot photos from at softball?
Yeah, the Caswell Park is not able for supply issues to get scaffolding ordered in time, and you can work with me on site to be able to come up with acceptable shooting locations. The outfield beyond the snow fence is going to be acceptable media access just for media. They're not permitting fans in the outfields beyond the snow fence. That'll be a media zone if desired. And then we can also circle back to that at the end of this, where we're going to have a more opportunity for questions. So that gives you a quick highlight there.
Thank
so we're
you.
going to move on. Sure, no problem. Thanks. Moving on to golf. In the second full week of June, you will have 2 days of golf. And that's another really busy, active week for us. Here are 3 familiar venues that will serve as the host sites for the 3 classes. All are gorgeous facilities, and the league thanks them for hosting these events. Moving on to golf, here's a look at the daily schedules. Please review the details of the start times when pairings are released. While no visible credential is required for golf, applying for a credential is needed to know what media organizations are on site at state tournament events. As shared here, media are permitted to follow golfers around during their round, but they must be respectful in doing so. Next, I'm going to turn it to Laura, and she is going to share information with you about the I Wanamaker app that allows you to follow the golfers through their rounds. Laura?
Thanks, Tim. And just a note for everyone that I Wanamaker is the golf app that is required for use in all post-season tournaments. Many schools are also using it during the regular year. Media, you have access to iWannamaker as a complimentary subscription to be able to follow your golfers in your area all year. If you have not yet done so, please do that now in preparation for postseason, but it'll also get you some pieces to help you cover the regular season. Again, if you go to that media page at the bottom underneath the resources section, there's a one-pager that talks about how to get iWannamaker access. And really, you're dropping an email to media@iwannamaker.com, and then they will confirm with us and then grant you a subscription access. I do believe that you need to do that annually. So as you prepare for golf season and especially for postseason, please make sure that you have that access. Without that access, you don't see final scores until we post them, which sometimes takes a little bit more time than you want to have those. And again, you're able to do that at any point. So if you're covering golf, that's one of those things you can plan ahead and do now to be prepared for postseason. Tim, I'll go back.
All right, very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that great information on the iWannamaker app. We now switch gears to baseball. And baseball is, as you know, a 4-class event at locations in central Minnesota and in the Twin Cities metro. The primary sites you see listed here are where the quarterfinals, semifinals, and third place games will be played. Now, in this next slide, you're going to be able to take a peek at the first 2 days of the baseball state tournament. And wow, look at the schedule of games that are on tap for each of those dates. So this gives you a comprehensive look as to what's happening in those days on Tuesday, June the 14th and Wednesday, June 15th, as it relates to baseball. Next up, we talk about the credentials window for the quarterfinals. There's your window of Tuesday, June 7th, and we need to hear from you by Tuesday, June 12th. And as an added note, if the member school that you are covering, if they advance to the semifinal rounds, there is no need to reapply. The league will automatically advance your credential to the next day. Photo locations are going to vary from venue to venue, so please consult tournament management for those photo locations. All tournament personnel will be alerted beforehand, and we will have guidelines set up for you on that. And a reminder, don't forget about live stats. They're going to be available for baseball for the championships and championship round games, as well as third place games. Moving on to the championship series at Target Field. Friday, June 17th, that's the scheduled date for the championship series at Target Field. If there's inclement weather, the rain date will be the next day, Saturday, June the 18th. If a member school that you are covering advances to the championship game, like the semifinals, your credential will be moved forward by the league. Please enter gate 29 at Target Field. I'm going to take a second here. Can anyone share who wore number 29 for the Twins? I'm hopeful. If you know the answer, maybe you can put it in the chat. So that's your trivia for today. Who wore number 29? There is no admittance to the press box area of Target Field. That is serving as tournament headquarters for the championship series. Media seating is going to be available in the Delta Club along the first base line. As many of you discovered last year, that's a really nice spot for you to be able to cover. It's protected from the elements, and it's near the elevator to reach that field level for post-game interviews. For radio partners, we will have radio booths available for you. Let's communicate with you and me before that, so we can make sure that your needs are met with sufficient radio space. And what a thrill it is to be able to call a game from Target Field. Let's move on. We've got a couple of a snapshot here to share of Target Field. A couple of indicators here. Some things to share. The blue diamond along the left field line. You can see it's right there, up in that, there it is. That's by the rolled up tarp that covers the field. That is where your post-game interviews will take place. That's a familiar zone to all of you who have covered the championship series in the past. The process will be the same. League staff will escort players and coaches to that spot. We do need to be careful when we are in that area because it can get busy with traffic. There are players leaving the field, there are players entering the field, and also their teams preparing for that next game with fly balls. So typically we've been pretty safe, but just be aware that it can get pretty busy. The blue arrows indicate photo zones. So you'll see them behind each dugout. There's a wide concrete path there that separates the lower seating from the upper seating at target field. That is an optimal place to be shooting photos for this championship series. And then the two triangles that you see at the end of each dugout, there is limited availability in those photo wells. See me at the beginning of each of those games to make sure that we don't get overloaded with photographers in that area. But there will be sufficient photo areas for everybody. And as always, I will be on site to help you with your coverage of that. Moving on, we have two more activities to cover. First of one is lacrosse and the boys and girls lacrosse tournament. They will be played on 3 dates at 2 venues in the East Metro of the Twin Cities. You can see there Roseville Area High School and Stillwater Area High School will share state tournament duties on those 3 dates that you see listed there. Next slide, we're going to talk about additional information that you need to know. And by now you are familiar with the credential windows and the on-site access. At both venues, there will be limited or no press box access because they will be taken up by tournament personnel. Jim Muckenhern is going to be your contact at Roseville Area High School, and Phil Archer, who will be beginning service with the high school league as an associate director. He will be your contact at Stillwater Area High School for those games. And now we've arrived at the last tournament, and that's the clay target. This is the final state tournament event of the 2021-2022 school year. The clay target state tournament continues to be one of the fastest growing activities, and it'll again be held at the Minneapolis Gun Club in Prior Lake on Friday, June the 24th. In case of inclement weather, we'll push it back a day to Saturday, June 25th. Next up, while there's no visible credential required, the league does ask that you apply so that we can know who is on site and how we can best assist. I will be your league staff representative on site at Clay Target, and I'm happy to help you with any kinds of questions or concerns or results, any kind of access information that you might need. Our next slide, and we're coming near the finish line here. These are just a couple of points of interest that I wanted to just share with you. The blue triangle at the bottom of the picture, that's your entry point to the Minneapolis Gun Club off of Judicial Road in Prior Lake. That long blue arrow indicates a sidewalk that separates fans and the shooting stations. There's quite a bit of distance between where the fans set up in their colorful tents, and it's just really a festive state tournament to attend. And then the shooting stations, as you see, are just to the right of those arrows. There you go, right in there. It really is quite a sight, and it's a great photo opportunity to cover this event. The bottom slide, this is tournament headquarters, and this is where the awards ceremonies will be held. School Space Media, as mentioned earlier, they will stream live both awards ceremonies following the team competition as well as the individual state tournament. Looking ahead, it's not too early to have an eye on next school year. And as indicated here, media registration for the coming school year is going to begin on August 1st and continue through the end of the month. We are going to be sending more information on this process as we learn it. So that's something that you could be looking for as you're enjoying a restful and relaxing summer. Now it's time to turn the meeting over to you. It's time for any questions. Laura or Ellen, can you share any questions that may have been submitted via the chat feature?
I just had the one on scaffolding.
I think I saw one just from Jim Bartles. Come by. Can you share that one?
I don't have that one.
Okay. Okay, that would, will the Clay target coaches be listed on the high school pages? Laura?
Jim, the answer to that is yes, they should be. Those somewhat non-traditional activities, we struggle to get them on there. We are working with those ADs to help them get all of their coaches listed. Those presenting partner activities and fine arts are not used to having to do that. So that has been a piece we've been working through.
Great, thank you. Last call for any questions in the chat. If there are none, that brings us to the conclusion of this media forum. The league just really thanks you for your participation today and also grateful for your coverage of league activities. As shared earlier, please reach out to me with any specific questions as it relates to the coverage of these spring state tournament events. And as always, we will say we'll see you on the Prep Sports Beat. So long, everyone.